8th grader in this building, and I remember with myself and Jerry Ozzie, we were signed up to go to the state tournament, which was in St. Cloud, and there was a major snowstorm, and we couldn't get there. We eventually got there, but I remember that game because I remember watching serving. And if you knew anything about Nikki, there was two things that were a holy Bible in her practices: serving and passing. In talking to Ann Nessett to get ready for today, she said that she remembers Nikki, that she actually served like 14 points. Now this is under the old school system where you had to serve to get points. In class of 76, volleyball finally moved to a fall sport with Nikki at the helm. That is when their first state trip happened. They were 11-2, 9-33 overall, and they brought home the consolation trophy. Basketball finally moved to a winter sport. Please forgive me, I've walked around and asked some people about track, and I have to apologize. And as my mom says, my mom used to tell me, running is not your sport unless there's a ball out in front of you. So she told me I should trap one. I do know that we have the Overbees, the people that I watched, because I was a track manager in the spring, and I watched the Overbees and the Hagbergs and those people do that hard work. So what next? We had volleyball, we had basketball, and we had track. So what was next? Well, in 1978, and Mary Jane Sell, I know you're here, and I should have asked you if you remember. Where'd you go?
Right back here.
So do you remember who was with us when we decided to grab our softball gloves and walk into baseball practice? So we stood there at the ticket counter and we decided, I know it was Mary Jane, it was Jane Wood, I know there was another person that was in your grade, myself and somebody else. We grabbed our gloves because we wanted to play baseball. That lasted for about a hot 30 seconds. And we got sent to the office to Mr. Johnson, and we were promised that they would add softball. Unfortunately, we had to wait until 1980. So I feel bad for the Mary Janes and the Jane Woods that couldn't play softball, because I got the opportunity to do that. And who was our coach? An instructor, an art teacher by the name of Jim Bowden. And Jim was a huge supporter of girls athletics here at Kenyon. He was our assistant coaches in many sports, but the one key thing that Jim always was a motivator. Long before his time, he was always making signs. He was always giving us the sheets of paper. I still have those sheets of paper that I had in my uniform when we went to state tournament that motivated us. So Kenyon High School, it did its parts in forming many of us today with this commitment to sport. It gave me the opportunity, you said scholarship, it was $200, but back then that was a pretty big deal to play volleyball at Bemidji State. It gave me the opportunity to coach, be the athletic director, and teach, going on 30-some years. People keep asking me when I'm going to retire. I'm still having too much fun with our young people. In chatting with Steph, the funny part is that she told me I was too short to play volleyball in college, and so I told her that was my mission, to prove her wrong. So on closing, I would be remiss if I didn't take time to thank those that pushed me and pushed the boundaries actually before me. And those were really the people that walked through the door first. And I know that I will miss their names, but you have to remember, I watched you as that little 6th grader, that 7th grader, that 8th grader. The Mary Jane Sells, the Ann Nessetts, the Overby sisters, the Chris Langemo. Mind you, don't ever try to take a charge from Chris Langemo as a 9th grader. Not a good idea. The Roz Hagbergs, the Jane Nelsons, the Carrie Albright, the Nancy Baker, the Sue Hansen, the Julie Underdahl, the Kay McVeigh, the Quidhams, the Cole sisters, the Ronnie, the Schwanke sisters, Kathy Meisel, the Scars, the Banksness, and the Bensons. You all formed me, and I know many people that are my age and younger, we watched you. And of course, the Diane Nickonens and the Steph Sadiks of the world that had to push for equal practice time and gym space. So we alternated between new gym and old old gym. Without you being the first, there would be no Kenyon athletics as it is today. There would be no girls to look up to. So thank you for your time. Thank you again for the dedication and the memories. I will say one thing. I did have the opportunity to come back and coach high school volleyball against Nikki. I did lose. I wanted to win. It went 5 matches or however long. I think we only played 3. But the one thing I remember walking in that gym, that the sports reporter asked me, and I looked at him and I said, the smell. I knew I was home. Because our gym had a very unique, sweet smell of the gym floor, and I knew I was home. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeannie. Nice history of women's sports in Kenyon. And I neglected to say that she's also in the KW Hall of Fame as well. Well, I think it's time to get to the dedication. If you want to read more of the history of the school, Julie Prouse, one of our architect and one of the members of the committee, wrote a great summary of that. I think that's been the last couple issues of the Kenyon Leader, and I think there's also a really good